Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Teamwork a Better Way. I'm Christian Napier, and I am joined by my world-traveling co-host, Spencer Horn. Spencer, how you doing?
Good if you can consider, Midwest kind of Eastern time zone as world traveling, but I am so well. How are you? Happy just after Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter to you too. Where did you spend your Easter, and where have you been traveling to?
I was all week from Monday through Friday. We flew into Detroit and then drove down to Toledo, over to Cleveland, Kirtland. We were in Cuyahoga National Park, Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Jan and I, my wife, we try to, wherever we are, we try to visit national parks, and we've gotten to 25 so far. But there's like 63 of them, I think. So we've got this goal to visit them all.
Well, that's amazing. I never did. I've been to Cleveland a lot of times, but I never did go to the Cuyahoga National Park.
It's
I wish I
literally just 10. I mean, it's just right
I
down the
know it's
road.
really close. Yeah, shame on me for
No, no shame.
spending all
No
the
shame.
time
Good.
working and not playing.
That's right. You are a hardworking man for sure.
So, how about your Easter? How was your Easter weekend?
Wonderful. It was very quiet. This year most of the kids were with the in-laws, and so it was Jana and Sam and me, and we were quiet. I sang in the choir on Sunday. That was nice. How was
Oh, I
your
should have been there. We our Easter was quiet as well, and so we had some family over, but not all family for the same reasons that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of fun. My wife made sourdough waffles, which are amazing, and it was super tasty. We should mention the sad news that happened earlier this morning with the Pope Francis passing away, and so our condolences to all of our friends who are mourning the Pope's passing, and we hope for a smooth transition over to the next Pope.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Uh, All right, let's introduce our guest because we've been waiting, and she's been waiting to speak with us, and we're super excited to have her on. Spencer, why don't you go ahead and introduce her to our viewers and listeners?
Absolutely. We're really excited today to have you, Teresa. This is Theresa L. Bassett, who's the CEO of the Diamond Group. And she is a powerhouse entrepreneur. She's a business strategist. And she's really focused on revenue growth with her agency. And she's got over 20 years of experience in business ownership and leadership. And she's dedicated her career to helping business owners build sustainable success and finally getting off of the exhausting revenue roller coaster that so many ups and downs, right, Teresa?
Yeah.
And she is the author of a new book called Uplevel: Sprint Your Way to the Next Level in Your Life and Business. So Teresa breaks down exactly how entrepreneurs can create lasting momentum by implementing systems that eliminate feast or famine income cycles, and that's really the sweet spot that she focuses on. And she's developed this 90-day sprint formula that transforms how businesses operate, scale, and thrive. And that's her goal, is really to empower organization, business owners in particularly, with clarity, confidence, and practical steps needed to shift from just unpredictability in their revenue cycles and to more reliability. And she is really, today we asked her to focus in on how teams can really add to that stability. I mean, because that's where that stability comes from, is hopefully working together in a way that can create that stability for the organization. So our focus today is building teams that thrive, culture, talent, and really bringing your expertise, your unique expertise in what you do to making teams stronger. So tell us how you got into this business. We were talking earlier offline. You're from Detroit. You now live in the great state of North Carolina, and you're helping companies. Where did your experience come from?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, thanks again, you guys, for this opportunity. This is one of my very favorite topics. You guys are nailing it. And I got emotional there for just a second, Christian, when you said that about Pope Francis passing away, because I didn't know that until just when you said that. And so, yes, my heart goes out to those who are grieving. And wow, that's impactful. Talking about inspiration and sustainability. Um, but yeah, my experience, I became an entrepreneur several decades ago, leaped off from my corporate gig into coaching and created a coaching agency in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then about 14 years ago, linked arms with my husband, Kelly, and have been building our sales and marketing agency ever since. And it's just been amazing. My background in Fortune 500 sales and marketing transferred over into this industry. And it's been a remarkable ride. And as you talked about, I love helping create strong, resilient organizations. Only about 6% of small businesses in America get over the 7-figure threshold, which means a lot of people are working really hard to create the sustainable systems. And that's what I get up every day working to help people do, right? Because it isn't just about sales and marketing, although one of the primary marketing bridges that they have to cross over is this team and talent recruitment bridge, right? You have to convince people to link arms with you and to build your vision with you and to really create from that place of vision. And so that requires, and team orientation. And you're absolutely right. Like, the sustainability comes from being able to link arms with other great folks and build something truly remarkable together. So I love this topic. I'm excited to talk about it. And my background across corporate and then in small business, both on my own as a solopreneur and then with my husband, in both scenarios, I've been building teams, developing teams for, almost 25 years now. I don't even feel old enough to say that, but it's
It goes
true.
fast. It goes so
It goes
fast.
fast. Yeah, got several gray hairs in here to prove it, but
I don't see them. Do you see them, Christian?
Nope, I can't see any.
yeah,
Well,
thanks to my
Teresa,
hair.
so I'm really interested about what's magical about the 7-figure threshold once you get there. But maybe you can answer that. But after you talk about this idea of recruiting, you talked about recruiting and really energizing recruiting is something that you focus on. How do you become a talent magnet to get the best talent? Because obviously that's we want to be able to compete in the space that we operate in our vertical, so that we can get to that 7-figure and over, obviously, threshold, and we need good people to do that. So what's your formula for being that talent magnet?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. Well, I think it's important to begin with the end in mind. And here's the thing: we attract what we are, not what we want, right? So really, to attract talent, we have to first reel it in and get remarkably clear on, the organizational values, the personal values that we bring to the table, and the kind of organization we're really seeking to create. Really, it stems from that place of vision and the clarity around those values, and then being able to be that as the business owner, and then bring it, through the culture, bring it through the brand. And so this is it is a marketing exercise, if you think about it at its core, because if you don't know who you are at your core in the culture, then how are you supposed to communicate that out? How is the messaging supposed to be clear? And if the messaging isn't clear, how are you attracting those people that you ideally want to be attracting? So clarity is really king in this equation. And and we have to walk the talk. We have to be the thing that we're trying to attract in our team. And then it really is there is a magic formula in it, because when we really start to amplify that piece, the clarity, and really start to embrace the beingness of that, it's remarkable, Spencer, how people will find you. People will find your brand. Here at the Diamond Group, I mean, we get almost 10 resumes a week. I mean, people seeking to work with us. And I only wish I could grow and scale faster. Honestly, we have such a thriving organization and culture. I absolutely love recruiting and developing people within this organization. And I feel like it's one of the gifts of entrepreneurship that we get to extend, an opportunity to make a meaningful living, tap into a system that, not everybody wants to create their own system. They want in many cases, stability and security that comes from being part of a bigger organization. And so we as entrepreneurs here in the business community, I mean, we get the opportunity, the true gift of providing that kind of system for folks. And so I think it's a remarkable gift, and that clarity that we're really, behooves us to create is super important. I mean, it is mission critical. And so if we're feeling sluggish about our organization, or we're feeling unclear, we're going to attract sluggish and unclear.
All right, Spencer with the sounder. It worked. I've got a question about what you were talking about here, Teresa, and I'm curious about how you've seen this workplace evolve over the last 5 years. I mean, you know, before COVID hit, everything was pretty much we all went into the office all the time, and we did our thing. Then COVID hits, we all go remote, and then we see these like wild swings from quiet quitting and resignation to big layoffs, and now we're seeing, significant layoffs in the public sector, which usually traditionally was immune, to this.
Yeah.
And so the environment for people right now is pretty chaotic, and in terms of uh, uh, hiring and recruitment and retention. And so, and then we've got the advent of AI, which people are a little nervous about, potentially displacing jobs. So in this chaotic environment, what do you recommend for organizations to do to make sure, aside from, yes, you live your culture, it's a reflection of who you are, and people are attracted to who you are, and so on and so forth. But beyond that, what are some strategies that you recommend in today's environment organizations put in place, leaders put in place to both recruit and attract, but also retain their talent in this really uncertain, chaotic time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know that there are a lot of people impacted across multiple sectors. And I think we could probably almost say that at any given time, right? Like people are always talking about how this is as chaotic as it's ever gotten. And probably if we went back 50 years, we would hear that. And if we went back 50 years, we do in business, if you watch swings in culture, we do need to be aware of the changing times. And if for any business owner who's been at it for a while, you know that you have to stay relevant and stay in touch with what's going on for your workforce. And I think one of the things that we see is that, with the newer generation coming into the workforce, especially Gen Z, is changing the way people are looking at work-life blend and balance. And I think to your point, Christian, coming out of COVID, right? Everybody went home. They were working in their yoga pants for years. And now there's this shift back to the office, and there's some resistance in it. We've found that the hybrid work schedule works really well to help create blend and support people where they're at. We have almost a 50-50 split in office and at home time. Not everybody's able to, create that in their culture. But of course, with remote work of any kind being part of the culture, you've got to get a little bit, you got to think outside the box a little bit in ways to keep people really engaged in the culture. I think it's really important to, have a top-down mentality in terms of helping people see that, this messaging, I guess what I mean is it has to be reinforced from the top, but for them to understand that they are creating the culture, that culture is not a top-down formula, but that it really is on them to engage in the strategies, right? It's not just, lunches in the office or remote time or PTO. It's how are we treating each other within the workforce, and how are we helping people adjust to these changing times. So we as employers, we really need to be in tune with what drives people and what helps people be well within the culture. Over 86% of the people that leave jobs leave because of their managers. And we think it's about pay, it's about benefits, it's about environment. It's really because they feel that they aren't being seen, aren't being heard, aren't being understood. And a lot of times there's just a mismatch or a misalignment in their management team. And so it really behooves us as part of this adjusting to chaotic times to look at our management strategies and how our managers within our team really staying in touch with what really matters with the workforce. And I think that is a key element, Christian, when you talk about helping to stabilize in chaotic times. Our management team, our leadership team, and helping everyone in the organization understand what leadership really looks like is a really key feature in that.
I'm torn because I want to build on this, but I don't want to also move on too quickly from the recruiting part, because you talked about, first of all, making creating clarity about your message and your brand and your culture. But then how do you find people that align with that? Because you can create this, you can become this great organization, and yes, people are going to find you, but how do you make sure they're the right fit? What's your process for aligning the candidate with you as an organization? Because then that will lead back to what you were just talking about, people leaving managers. I mean, if the managers embody and believe in the culture that you espouse, that there should be alignment.
No, absolutely. Well, so back to that beginning with the end in mind. So if those core values are not just words on a piece of paper, I mean, I see a lot of stale core values, right, across the business environment. But those core values need to really be, that's part of your DNA, right? These are values that your team is really embracing. It's not just corporate speak on a poster. Those core values then get planted in your job descriptions. And so right there, when you're actually posting for a position, you're telling people what you stand for. And I actually give candidates an opportunity to rank themselves on a scale of 1 to 5. How aligned are they with these core values? And then those same core values are brought into the conversation during the hiring process and recruiting process. And so we set up a 3-step gauntlet, if you will, for hiring, because we're trying to
gamers are going to love that. They love the gauntlet, right? Come on,
gotta get through the gauntlet, right? So we love to see how people show up on the phone, show up on Zoom, show up in person when appropriate, see them in various settings. We talk about those core values at every single interview, and so those interviews are held for different purposes, right? One is for mindset, right? Culture fit. One is skill set. That's really with the manager of that department, really to assess capabilities, right down to, technical skills, trained capabilities, but then also the overarching mindset and attitude of the candidate, and getting different people's perspectives on those interviews. And so to your point, it does increase the stickability of a candidate, right? If they've gotten through this gauntlet and they've talked to 3 different people in 3 different modalities, you're going to uncover a lot of information about those people and really start to wrestle with some of these core value propositions and go, okay, well, how did you show up? One of our core values is buoyancy. And buoyancy means to me, not just being fun and flexible, but not making mountains out of molehills, right?
I love that core value. I've never heard buoyancy as a core value before. Have you, Christian? I like that.
No, I've never heard of it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in a coastal market, so I got water on the brain.
So that those are, I love your answers, and I'm actually very aligned with what you're saying, and that matches a lot with what I do with my clients. So I love that. So let's go back to your comment about 86% of people leave people, as it ties back into Christian's question about creating an environment where people feel safe. I believe one of the things that you said in your answer is that people will love their work when they feel valued.
Yeah.
And one of my heroes, Clayton Christensen, a former professor at Harvard Business School, so often we get it wrong about the motivators. It's money or culture. Culture's important, but he found that they really need two things, and he's not the only one that has uncovered this. Is they need to feel like they're valued, that they're making a difference, that they're contributing to the betterment of the world through what they do in the organization. That's number one. But number two, I think, really fits into, I'm guessing, I'm going to throw in this idea that I see from you. You have this idea of progress equals happiness philosophy. And here's what he said is number two. If they feel like they are being challenged,
yes,
and are in an environment where they're actually growing and not stagnant. So if if they feel like they're doing the same things over and over, and we as humans literally are designed to grow. We are designed to learn even until the day we die. The whole idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks is a lie. We have neuroplasticity until we die. Now, are there people who choose to reject that and just want to stay, comfortable where they are? Yes, but most people want to be challenged. And I think that comes if there's continually progress. That means there's new clients, new opportunities, new promotions, new positions, doing things that are outside of your comfort zone. Am I on track with your philosophy?
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself, Spencer. I was actually, you took the words right out of my mouth, because
Well, I'm sorry.
I know, I love that, because I do see that we are wired for progress, for growth and development as human beings. And so, yes, I think the organizations that we plug into need to be similarly wired. And so what I've seen is that it's important that happens, on every level. So the individual needs to feel like they're progressing. The departments they're in need to feel like they're progressing. The organization as a whole needs to be on its own progress track. And so those three different levels continuously happening absolutely helps with retention. And I think there's a word even, not just feeling valued, but people will need to feel like they belong to something. Like there's a sense of belonging when you're part of a team where not only you feel valued, but you're continuously progressing together. So the individuals are on their own track, but the department and the organization is on its own development track. And when you can get these things to happen simultaneously, and you can give people a breadcrumb trail of development, that progress equals happiness formula, that really just came naturally from, I noticed myself. And I was like, yeah, I get bored. I mean, if I don't feel like I'm progressing, I get bored. And every corporate job I ever had, I mean, I was always the one challenging my managers. I mean, I can count on 3 fingers the number of, good managers I had over the years. But the ones that I remember being, particularly aligned were the ones that were challenging me, were holding me accountable to the next best version of myself. And me feeling a part and belonging to a team that was moving towards something, a common vision, a goal. And so that's a lot to pull off as a small business owner. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it takes mindfulness and intentionality. And if you think people are just going to show up continuously day in and day out on this treadmill and stay engaged and stay happy without you putting some mindful intention into how to create that track, right? How to energize that track, I think people are remiss in allowing that to chance. I feel so honored when you play the music. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to come up with another golden nugget that I get the music for.
Hey, no pressure here, but yeah, we
Yeah,
you know,
keep it going.
Spencer loves it when he hears something that really resonates with him. And so continuing on this track, uh, for teams, whether they're small businesses or teams in corporate, the team may be uh, fairly small, and the opportunities may be fairly limited. Right? Okay, well, we're just this size of an organization. We can't conquer the world. We do these things well, and we serve these clients well, and so to some people, including the leaders, it may seem like, well, yeah, there are only so many opportunities I can offer, right? So, how do you keep people growing in an organization where the perception is, whether it's by the team members or the leaders themselves, that the opportunities here are somewhat limited? How do you overcome that?
Yeah, no, I love that question. Well, I think you kind of touched on it, Christian, when you're talking about the chaotic environment around us, and we were talking about having to pivot, having to adjust as organizations and stay relevant. Even if we have small organizations, I mean, my team is only 20 people deep. I mean, I know I don't have a multi, you know, level bureaucratic organization myself. But think about the new tools that are emerging. You talked about AI. Think about the new perspectives that are out there with the younger generation coming into the workforce. There are always opportunities, even for small teams, to progress and for individuals. Maybe it's a new tool that they need to tackle. Maybe it's a new strategy or tactic, or just an area that they've been wanting to explore, right? Having these continuous conversations with people like, okay, what went great? What could go better? What's next? I think we need, on this progress equals happiness track, to set up continuous conversations with our people so we can explore this. We don't have to go to the mountaintop as a business owner or as a leader and come up with the answer. We get to co-create it with them and go, hey, what have you been wanting to learn? How can I support you in that? Is
Well,
there training?
that just adds to their belonging, don't you think, if they actually participate in that?
Oh, 100%. Because if somebody asks you your opinion, or if you've been wanting to learn something, or if you need a new different tool, I mean, isn't that a great compliment to you?
I think.
It's like, oh yeah, wow, Dave, he cares about not just what I think, but what I need or what I want or what I see is next. And so that also is yeah, that makes you feel valuable, like your input is valuable, but it also shows that um they want to be in touch with you. Right? That you matter, that your individual perspective and the things you see, because what I've seen is they know from inside the work so much better than I do many times what's next on that horizon. So if I have a come down from the mountaintop and bring the answer mentality, I'm missing out on so much, because sometimes it's just these little small shifts. Oh, it's the next certification. Oh, it's the next tool. Oh, it's just having a half an hour to explore this topic. All of these are small ways to infuse that progress equals happiness into the culture.
Is this also what you? I'm just throwing it out there, and it's not an open-ended question. I'm close. Is this what you mean by co-creating? What you were just talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I come from the coaching world. In coaching, it's very forward focused. But I'm not I didn't come from consulting. Consulting's more like, okay, go away, come up, audit and analyze, come up with the answer, come up with a plan, and bring the plan back to the team, and then they may or may not adopt it. Coaching is more like meeting people where they're at, right? Exploring, using active listening skills to ferret out solutions and things that are going on, and then co-creating a plan to say, well, hey, what if we did this? Well, what if the next step looked like this? And co-creation is much more active, I would say, because the participant then is crafting the solution with you. There's much higher level of integration and adoption, and people typically feel more charged up and ready to go out of a conversation like that, as opposed to, I think you should do this. And the minute you come in with that kind of solutionizing, people get defensive, right?
Yeah, so this so then part of your formula is this leads to long-term success of your organization because people are excited, they're committed, they're dedicated, they're co-creating with the leaders of the business. They're feeling that progress, therefore happiness that is associated with the work that they're doing. So, have I got the formula?
Yeah, that's kind of a best case scenario. I mean, Jeff Bezos was the one who talked about the day one mindset, right? Coming into your business every day with that fresh perspective and really valuing and encouraging innovation. And this is a close cousin, that progress equals happiness formula is about how do we make that day one mindset a thing and bake it into the culture, right? Encourage that all along the path. Because to your point, if people are engaged, if they feel like they belong to something, it's just a lot more fun to go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where are you going to find that? I mean, honestly, not every
With
business owner.
Christian's
Yeah.
team.
Christian's team. Yeah. Well, that's really special. Those places are special. And not every workplace is like that. And so if we can embrace this as business owners and bake this into our culture, we're doing the workforce a great service.
Hey, Teresa, I'm curious. I actually started my career in accounting, right?
Mhm.
So after college, my first job was working for a company and in their accounting office. And the accounting office had there were well established processes for handling things,
Yeah.
from payroll to reconciling accounts and so on and so forth. And there's a certain kind of person
Mhm.
that I noticed that was doing this kind of work that was very happy having an established daily routine, knowing, okay, I come in to work and I do this, this, and this, and then I go home and I come back the next day and I do this, this, and this. That person is not super interested in always
Mhm.
learning new things. They feel quite comfortable in doing things the way that they've been done for a long time, and they find satisfaction from that. So, how does that kind of an individual fit into this? Because uh, you know, when I hear, and I happen to be the kind of person that actually finds a lot of uh, I'm a total believer in the progress is happiness thing. I always am, very intellectually curious. I want to learn new things, but I also recognize that not everybody fits that profile. Is there a place for
Mhm.
people who uh, are, you know, very they're very attracted to the routine of things and doing something consistent day in and day out? Is there a place for that kind of a person
I just
in the
think of West Side
organization you're
Story.
talking about?
West Side Story.
Yeah, there's a place for us.
There's a
Where is
place
that?
for
Somewhere,
There's a
somehow.
I
place for us.
I think you bring up a great
Somewhere.
point, Christian. Yes, I do think that there is a place and there has to be a blend within the organization. Well, here's the thing, if you have all innovation and no stability, that doesn't work. If you have all stability and it gets stagnant, that doesn't work. It needs to be a blend of these two things.
But
And
don't you
and
think that
the
progress is actually doing the work in that way? That I mean,
yeah.
I can't wait to hear because I believe that there is a form of progress that's happening.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that every individual has a need. And Tony Robbins was the one who touched on the six basic needs of a individual, and everybody has a need for stability, but everybody also has a need for variety. And so the pace of adoption and innovation might be different in those stability more stability oriented individuals, and that's okay. But never changing anything, never improving a process or creating more efficiencies. I found that my detail oriented, more stable minded folks still love to work on efficiency.
Right, and so
And
that's kind of isn't that what Tuckman Bruce? I mean, you've got the Bruce Tuckman to talk about. You've got forming, storming, norming and performing, right? There's a point as you go through the organizational development where you actually go through a chaos phase. And
Yeah.
some people love that. Others are super uncomfortable there. But as you get into that norming where things start to get calmed down, that's when they feel like you're actually making progress, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So to your point, it's all relative. And not everybody's wired for the exact same speed or the exact same processing time. But if you recognize that even those, everyone on the team has similar needs, it's just relative to their personality type and the way that they're wired. Um, because yes, I think that every organization actually needs a blend of those individuals. If you have everybody storming and nobody norming, you got a problem.
I mean, that's how I interpreted that, Christian. I mean,
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no, that's great. I'm glad to hear that the blended approach is good here, because I do think that there is a need for people to keep things running, after the folks that who are the curious people who get bored easily move on to the next thing. It's like, well,
yeah.
all right, well, we got to actually deliver some stuff here. So, there's a
Well,
place for that.
and
So,
back to, and I think this plays in, Spencer, to what you were talking about. You hinted on, like, what's the magic in the seven-figure threshold? Not every company comes up with their system, their thing, the thing that they're really their secret sauce, right? The thing that they're going to really be good at, and then solidify that thing enough, create enough norm and structure to that system, but then continue to innovate it and get over the threshold. That takes leadership. So it's easier to be a great doer, be self-employed. Oh, I'm an attorney and now I have my own practice, right? But leading a team through the process of creating a system and then innovating it, keeping it fresh, and continuing to make it relevant to the times and serve the marketplace. That's a different skill set than just being a great doer, right? Leading people and developing people is a totally different thing than being a great doer.
yeah, and that's a mistake that many leaders make is they promote the doers
Yeah.
because they're the best at the job and they actually fail at leading people doing the job. What I'm changing gears a little bit. What's one common culture myth that you think leaders need to unlearn?
Well, the first thing that popped in my head when you said that is that I don't believe in a one size fits all management style. I think that sometimes when people are in overwhelm, it shows up looking like apathy, like they don't care, but sometimes people are just overwhelmed. And I think that in this day and age we have a lot of people in overwhelm because there's so much content being published, there's so much input, we're processing a lot of information at the same time we're raising families, we're on social media, we're inundated with news cycles, all the things. One size, pretty typical management strategy is, I'm going to hold you accountable, I'm going to change the tasks, I'm going to increase the deadlines, I'm going to micromanage this, right? I'm going to really hold you to task. And that one size fits all management strategy doesn't work really well for people who are in overwhelm, because all it does is it serves to push you to higher levels of stress, which actually flips you into more apathy. And so I think just really being able to meet people where they're at, look beyond how it's showing up to what some of the root causes for people's behavior might be. Um, I would say that is a common myth within the culture, is just like, well, if we just hold people to their deadlines, if we just create more accountability, we'll get higher results.
Teresa, you hit on something that I think is, from my perspective and my experience, is hugely important. So I just told you that I spent the week speaking to several senior executive and CEO groups, in the Rust Belt area there, and I spend more time with senior executives on effective delegation and behavior correction than anything else. And the reason is they don't take the time to actually
Right.
understand what's going on with their people. They're so focused on efficiency that it is all about the one size fits all that you talked about, instead of saying, I had one executive that was talking about one of his project managers was being very apathetic, was never on time, and our whole discussion was about how to have a conversation to figure out what's going on, because
Yeah.
you can't just pull that person and say, hey, listen, it seems like you don't care about your job. We put labels on people. We say, they're showing up late, they're lazy, they don't like, and it's so seems so simple to just sit down and say, listen, I want to talk to you about the past, projects, 3 projects that went past the deadline. Talk about outcomes, about here's what's going, and then what's going on. Tell me what's happening. This is not like you. What's leading to these failures in performance? Not that you're lazy, not that you don't care. Figure out what's going on, and if you actually stop to listen, you'll find out.
Yeah, and that kind of comes back to that co-creation conversation too,
It's
right?
coaching, though.
Yeah, it's coaching. It's not easy to do when you got
No, and that's they don't know
busyness
how to
going
do it.
on. I understand why it's easy for people to it does take extra effort. It takes extra time. I think though that, to your point, if you make yourself available and you open up those kinds of conversational spaces and you make it safe for people to be real, you're going to get a lot of information and you're going to increase your EQ tremendously because you're going to be in touch with what's really going on. And sometimes it's procedural. I've talked to employees or, been in situations like that where I'm coaching somebody in their organization, and what they find out is there's a process, there's a resistance point somewhere in the process. And it's like, well, this isn't really working
Yeah.
because I keep sending this to over here and this isn't happening over here. And it's not really about anything personal. It's actually about the process. And there's some resistance point in the process, but without slowing down to have the conversation and open it up and go, what do you really see here? What's going on, Spencer? Then you're just missing the boat. So to your point, it's easy to slap a label on it. Much easier than just slowing down to have the conversation. I think sometimes leaders are afraid of the truth. Like,
I agree, and they're cut you off there. Sorry about that. And they're so focused on efficiency. The problem is it actually shoots them in the foot, because it's like, to truly be efficient, you're going to take a co-creating perspective. You're actually co-creating outcomes and solutions that the team member helps solve, instead of you just saying you need to fix this or else, right? That's not coaching. Yeah. But it takes time to slow down and listen to what's going on, and ultimately that's what's more efficient.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Spencer. Isn't it the illusion of inefficiency? Because
exactly.
Finding another person to do that work, training them, talk about inefficient. When you can slow down for a 20-minute conversation and maybe get through a sticking point versus launching into this whole recruitment and training
CEOs
process.
listening to this, 20 minutes, they're freaking out. I tell you can accomplish that in 10, 15 minutes at the most.
10, 15, absolutely. Yeah.
Just stopping and listening. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And aren't they organizationally so much better off in the long haul? Because aren't they also then teaching their people what it should look like? I mean, you as a leader, you've got to walk your talk. Do you want your other managers on your team doing that as well, overlooking the conversational opportunities, overlooking the chances for progress or innovation, and just plowing forward with what they think needs to happen? I mean, don't you want infused through your culture that being available for your people? I mean, our people are our best assets.
So we
I
say.
mean, yeah, they really, well, I don't know. I don't have anything if I don't have a team. I mean, I can't deliver my system. I can't deliver my services to the marketplace My team is extremely important to me. And so, yeah, I got to show up for them.
All right. I've been hearing this word efficiency thrown out a lot here. And our goal with this podcast is to help leaders build high performing teams. But one of the questions that I have for you, Teresa, coming back to this efficiency, is what are the metrics for high performing teams, right? Is it possible that, we're looking at our team and we're frustrated because they're not doing this, that, and the other, but maybe we're using the wrong measures? The reason I bring this out is I was recently having a conversation with a Gartner analyst, and we were talking about AI and return on investment. Their position was that when it comes to the kind of office productivity use of AI, that ROI is the wrong metric, because it's very difficult to demonstrate, anything more than just minor incremental efficiency gains, broadly speaking. But what they found in their research is that return on employee is significant. So when they've done like employee net promoter score surveys, those who are using these tools on a daily basis report much higher job satisfaction than those who don't. So my question is, when we come to looking as leaders at the performance of our teams, how do we make sure that we're actually using the right measures of performance? Because maybe we're just looking at the wrong stuff.
Great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I also, the thing that popped in my head when you were talking about that, Christian, is the opportunity costs that we're incurring by not using those tools. That's an even harder metric, to gauge, but we are paying opportunity costs when we're not staying relevant. We're losing employees, we're losing time and efficiency in that. But I think that, to your point about creating a clear measure of success for our team and our employees so that people know if they're doing well, that clarity is super important. I think it's a department by department situation in many cases, and maybe even a role by role situation if we have a very small organization. But you're right, we do have to create clear pictures, and decide what those key metrics and that scorecard should look like so that people do know that what they're plugged into. And those metrics should be the drivers, the key drivers, the lead measures that really drive success in the organization. So to your point, that could be employee retention, for some, in HR department, for example. It could be client retention if it's an account services team. It could be average client value if it's a sales team, or a services team. It could be, so I think department by department, role by role, those key metrics do need to be discussed with employees. And I think you're right. A lack of clarity there could really create some confusion, and some frustration on the management team's part, right? Because how do you even have a good collaborative conversation if people don't even know what they're shooting for? And I think it's pretty common in small organizations for this to be a little muddy. I mean, I don't see clarity in KPIs occur at the earliest stages of businesses. It's really once people can get beyond some of the basics and start to get a system humming when they can start fine tuning along these lines of KPIs. But I think you're right, Christian. Like the faster, the better we can get clarity around it, and then co-create those KPIs with our team. I don't want to sound redundant by keep using that word over and over, but again, what are the measures of success? What should success look like for that team? I think that's a great opportunity for a conversation in a department meeting. If it's not clear, let's make it clear together. Yeah. I don't know. Do you see the same thing? Muddy KPIs at early stages of business, but that they get more specific and more clear as the organization gets more evolved and mature.
Yeah, I mean, I do, and I think that I think that's right. I mean, Christian, I'm talking about the mindset of efficiency, right? More than actually bottom line efficiency, because in their mind they're like, I gotta act, I gotta do, I gotta solve, and it's just, I need to get this problem out of my office. That's an efficiency mindset. And so a lot of founders and who wear so many hats are all about just solving problems, and that's the efficiency mindset I'm talking about, instead of slowing down and working with those people and getting them involved and actually co-creating. What are our OKRs? And some, KPIs or OKRs, there's a lot of different terms for objectives and key, performance
Yeah.
indicators, but you get to identify what those are, and when you get buy-in for what those are, and how they're going to be achieved, I think there's even greater commitment to those, instead of KPIs or OKRs by fiat, right?
Yeah, and actually, to your point, the word that's jumping out at me as I'm listening to you guys is systems.
Mhm.
If there's clarity in the organizational structure, and you've clarified the systems that create that success, then within each system you can create clear scorecards. You can create, right, clear core values and what a successful candidate would look like. So that goes all the way back to that recruiting piece. I think in small business, it's very common to have a lack of structure and systems. And so this is where a lot of the muddiness
And
falls in, and
therefore,
partnering
how
with
do you
development.
manage progress so that you get to happiness? If
Exactly.
it's no fun. I mean, Christian and I talk a lot about sports. Christian's background is in major sports management. It's pretty boring to watch a sporting event with no score.
Ah, yeah.
It's
I
not very
can't even
motivating to know
imagine.
if you won or not.
Yeah.
And I love what you said, because it could be, retention. It could be employee retention as a indicator of culture. It could be, customer retention, and all of those things are. I mean, you can have different measures, but knowing what those are, I think actually can help create that
Yeah.
that progress that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I've been at the founding stages of business at several different junctures, and I paid a lot of dumb tax in this area. So a lot of this comes out of that dumb tax. I didn't have systems that were very clear. I didn't have scorecards
Dumb.
and KPIs, right? I had to look up what KPI stood for 20 years ago because I didn't even know what it stood for.
It's an expensive
So
learning curve, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. A real life MBA, right?
I'm going to have to
And
remember. I'm going to use that, Teresa, the dumb tax.
oh, paid plenty of dumb tax,
I love
absolutely.
that.
Yeah. But that's one of the benefits of continuing to work on these systems and the clarity, because you get better and better and better. And one of the things that we've noticed is that over the years, we have gotten better employee retention. We have gotten better. We're getting more innovation than ever because we're getting more buy-in from the team. And they're innovating from within and not waiting for us to come down from the mountaintop with an idea. And that's, as a small business owner, I mean, that makes my heart sing, right? Because I get to see them develop and grow. And I have a lot of young people on my team. I'm in marketing and sales, and so it's a young industry. And so, a lot of times I'm working with professionals who this is their first gig out of college, or maybe their second gig out of college. And so I get a real opportunity to see them develop in some pretty awesome ways early on in their career stages. And so for me, creating those systems and that clarity and those scorecards is super important, because that's what these young professionals really need to set a good groundwork, I think, go forward. So
Well, I just noticed the time and it has absolutely flown by here, Teresa. So I'm going to ask you my last question, and then I'll give time to Spencer to wrap up on his side. But so for my last question, I'm wondering if you can just kind of briefly describe to viewers and listeners what Diamond Group does, how you help people, and the impact that you have seen working with organizations over these last many years.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So the Diamond Group, I mean, we really are all about creating strong, resilient, um, organized small businesses. So we love serving small businesses and creating sustainable sales and marketing systems. Sales drives the bus, and so we love to help businesses, especially service-based businesses. So construction and home services, healthcare, and professional services businesses are our three primary verticals, and we love to help small business owners. Typically, 1 to 10 million is our sweet spot in revenue. Really help create sustainable systems that don't rely on the founder. Right up until that point, a lot of business owners are the chief sales officers, and it's their charm and charisma and chutzpah that's getting sales driven in the door. I like to help bolster those business owners by creating a system that works for them, and in many cases, in spite of them. So that's what it's all about. Diamonds are created under pressure, just like small businesses.
Okay, so I've got a lightning round for you. Okay, this is just like
Okay.
one word answers. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay,
Lay
one word to describe your leadership style.
Wow. One word. Adaptive.
A habit that every high performing team should develop.
Listening.
Your go to strategy for resetting a team that's stuck.
Beginning with the end in mind. Visioning. Going to the mountaintop. Going to the 90,000 foot view.
So, in hiring, what's more important, mindset or skill set?
Mindset.
The best investment a leader can make in their team, what is it?
Investing in themselves.
Okay, one book every team leader should read besides Uplevel, of course.
Oh, yeah. Good to great. I think Jim Collins does a great job of talking about attracting the right people to the bus and putting them in the right seats on the bus.
Okay.
And that's something, yeah.
Favorite way to recharge after a busy week?
Be outside. Nature.
I mean, I agree. What does a better way mean to you when it comes to teamwork?
Tearing down silos, just really collaborating.
All right,
Yeah.
now here's the most important one. Chicago, Detroit, or New York pizza?
Wow. New York pizza.
Really? You're a Detroit girl.
I know, but I really do like New York pizza.
All
Detroit
right.
pizza is good, but you got to really like thick crust.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Christian, that's all I got.
great questions. Great questions. You guys are awesome.
Okay.
You guys are awesome.
We've ended on a controversial but potentially delicious note with New York pizza. This
And
is
on that note,
fantastic.
lunch is right at hand, isn't it?
That's right. So, Teresa, thank you for giving us an hour of your time. If people want to learn more about how Diamond Group can potentially help them, what's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Awesome question. Yeah, they can go to diamond-group.co. There's a contact form on there. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me and my team. Again, that's diamond-group.co. And we would love to learn about their small business and how we might be able to help.
All right, fantastic. And Spencer, you've spent decades helping organizations build high-performing teams around the globe. How should people reach out and connect with you?
Just find me on LinkedIn, Spencer Horn on LinkedIn, and Christian. Don't you think he's great, Teresa? Isn't he amazing?
Oh, he's amazing. I would love to get a sneak peek behind your team organization curtains. I think you guys are awesome.
Thank you. And Christian just makes me look good because he's so amazing. How can people find you, Christian?
LinkedIn as well. Just look up Christian Napier on LinkedIn. You'll find me there. So it's been a really insightful hour. I really appreciate you, Teresa, and Spencer for this conversation. I learned a lot today. Listeners and viewers, we're grateful for you too. So please like and subscribe to our podcast. We'll catch you again soon.